Welcome. Today, we are going to get into the science of setting and actually achieving your goals. We're going to pop the hood and see what's really happening inside your brain when you're chasing something you want, and more importantly, how you can use that knowledge to your advantage. So, let me ask you something. Have you ever set a huge goal? You're all fired up, and then poof, the motivation just vanishes. We've all been there, and it's easy to think it's some kind of personal failure. But what if it's not? What if it's more like a system error in your brain? The good news is you can learn how to debug that system. Okay, so to do that, we first need to meet the team. Think of this as your brain's goal pursuit command center. There are four key players, four regions that have to work together perfectly, whether you're trying to launch a business or just, get to the gym 3 times a week. First up is a surprising one, the amygdala. Yeah, we usually think of this as the brain's panic button, right? The fear center. But when it comes to goals, it's actually your risk manager. A little bit of healthy anxiety about not hitting your goal, like the fear of failing an exam or letting someone down, is an incredibly powerful motivator. It keeps you on your toes. Next, you've got the basal ganglia. The best way to think of this is as the brain's main action switch. It has two modes, a go circuit that gets you to start writing that first page, and a no-go circuit that stops you from procrastinating on social media. It's all about pushing the gas on the right actions and hitting the brakes on the wrong ones. Then, of course, there's the CEO of the operation, the prefrontal cortex. This is your master planner. It's the part of you that can connect the dots, linking the boring, tedious stuff you have to do today with the amazing reward you're going to get way down the line. It's what makes future goals feel real. And finally, we have our emotional gauge, the orbital frontal cortex. This part is so important because it ties your feelings to your progress. It's constantly doing this calculation. Okay, how do I feel about the effort I'm putting in now versus how awesome will I feel when I finally cross that finish line? That emotional connection is what keeps you in the game. So you have this whole team, this whole system, but what fuels it? Well, it runs on a very specific chemical you've absolutely heard of, dopamine. But I guarantee its real job is not what you think. We hear dopamine and we immediately think pleasure, right? But that's not really it. It's the motivation molecule. See, dopamine isn't the feeling of reward you get at the end. It's the chemical that makes you want to get up off the couch and pursue the reward in the first place. It is literally the engine of desire. There's a famous study that makes this perfectly clear. You take a rat with normal dopamine and it'll work hard. It'll cross its cage to get a food reward. But if you take away its dopamine, it won't move a single inch to get that same food. Now, here's the crazy part. If you put the food right in its mouth, it still enjoys it. The pleasure is there, but the motivation to go get it is completely gone. That's dopamine. Okay, so now that we know the basic wiring, let's get practical. How do we use this? Welcome to part 1 of the user manual, and it starts at something incredibly simple, where you look. So researchers at NYU did this really cool experiment. They had people do a pretty tough exercise. They had to walk a certain distance wearing these heavy 15-pound ankle weights. Not easy. But the only difference between the groups was one simple instruction about where to put their eyes. One group was just told to walk to the finish line, but the other group, they were told to lock their eyes on that finish line and not look away. And the results were, well, they were nuts. The group that focused their vision on the goal got there 23% quicker. But here's the real kicker. They also said the task felt 17% easier. Let that sink in. Just by narrowing their visual field to the target, their brain and body became more efficient, and the perceived effort went way down. So here's how you use this. Before you start on something hard, whether it's a workout or just sitting down to do some deep work, take 30 to 60 seconds. Find a single point in the distance and just stare at it. This simple act literally primes the neural circuits for alertness and gets you ready to move forward. All right, for our next tool, I need you to forget some of the most common advice you've ever heard. This one is really counterintuitive, but the science is solid. We are constantly told to visualize success, right? Picture yourself winning. Picture the celebration. And yeah, that can feel good for a minute, but it turns out it's actually a pretty terrible strategy for keeping your motivation high over the long term. In fact, the research shows pretty clearly that to keep that fire going, you should be spending your time thinking about what happens if you fail. Visualizing the negative outcomes, the consequences of giving up, that's a much more powerful fuel for your journey. And why does this work? Well, it brings us right back to our brain's command center. This technique directly lights up the amygdala, your internal risk manager. By thinking about how bad things will be if you don't succeed, you're tapping into those powerful avoidance circuits to push yourself forward. It's using a little bit of fear as a tool. Okay, last section. Let's talk about setting the right kind of goals. And I'll give you one last powerful technique to help you manage your focus. You know, the level of challenge is everything. If a goal is way too easy, you're not motivated. If it feels totally impossible, you're also not motivated. The research shows the sweet spot, the place where motivation is highest, is for a goal that is moderately challenging, something that feels like it's just outside your reach, but you know you can get there if you stretch. And here is a fantastic exercise for training your focus. It's called space-time bridging. It's a simple workout for your brain. By just shifting your attention from your internal state to your hand, to something nearby, to the horizon, and back again, you are physically practicing the mental skill needed to achieve goals, keeping your eye on the long-term prize while still focusing on the task right in front of you. So at the end of the day, this really isn't about raw willpower. It's about neuroscience. It's about understanding these circuits for focus and motivation and planning, so you can work with your brain instead of constantly fighting against it. You've now got the tools, a user manual for your own mind. The only question left is, what are you going to build with it?